Hi, I'm Brendan Breyer and I'm a registered FarmX consultant. My task this afternoon is introduce you to the FarmX Sward stick. This little baby here. It's a tool that we use for measuring pasture covers on farm. We find it highly effective, that we can use it both quickly and efficiently and be consistent across a number of FarmX users. Our Sward stick is cut into 1 centimetre slots. These are calibrated by Ag Research against herbage mass measurements over a number of years. As you can see, the Sward stick is cut into 5 different segments: the spring, late spring, summer, autumn and winter. At these different times of year, the amount of herbage mass, depending on height, changes as the pasture composition changes. So how do we use this in practice? When we're going around our farm, we look at the different pasture and we make an assessment into which one of those seasons it fits. A spring pasture tends to be defined by a pasture that is lacking seed head and it's green and leafy, and hopefully will have a reasonable content of clover. Once we move into late spring, we have a pasture that has plenty of seed head in it, and also the clover content is beginning to diminish. Once we get into summer, we're into a sward where it has an increasing amount of dead material, the clover content is diminishing, and we have a lot of standing seed head. In autumn, we hopefully have a heap of green material coming through. This will be fresh tillers emerging after autumn rain in a summer dry environment, or it'll just be new grass coming through in a summer moist environment. We'll still have a reasonable amount of dead material at the bottom. Once we get into winter, this dead material would have diminished and we'll pretty much have a pure sward of grass with a little bit of clover. When we're moving around the farm, we may find that we have some paddocks that classify as spring. In other words, they haven't started to seed yet, whereas we may find other paddocks that have actually started to seed, and so we'd call those late spring. This means that we tend to be flexible throughout the year. The Sward stick does have specific months that relate to different time periods. So for example, spring is September to October, whereas in reality at the end of October we'll have a combination of both spring pastures and late spring pastures. Okay, so we're armed, ready to go out and measure our average pasture cover across the farm. FarmX has found that you only need to measure 40 to 50% of your paddocks. These must be random paddocks from across the farm, and this will give you a pasture mass which is within 100 of what you would have calculated by doing every paddock. So now that we've got the theory of how to use a sward stick, let's just put some of that into practice. This particular example is a sheep pasture, and as you can see it's fairly even across it. The technique that I tend to use is either a clipboard or the natural resistance you find when you rest your hand on the sward. What we're measuring is we're measuring the average height. That's not the longest grass. You'll see there's a few tufts of long pasture in here, and it's not also the shortest grass or even necessarily the height of the clover. The method I find that works really well is just to gently rest your hand on there until you feel that resistance. It should be quite comfortable, not too heavy, not too light. And then we're simply measuring the height of that hand. We come down to the base of our hand, line that up with where it comes to on the ruler, and that's our pasture height. So this paddock here is at about 1100 kilos of dry matter per hectare. But I prefer to use something like this clipboard, which will settle out at the average height of the sward. So we throw that down there, measure the height, take a reading as to where that sits. That one's 1850, and then record that in our list. In this particular case, we're using a farm map. It makes it easy to record which paddock we're up to, and it also helps to figure out where we are and which paddocks we've still got to go. Alright Dan, well we've done those covers. It was a good walk, it was good to have a look around. I suppose we better work out what the average is.
Righto. Well, this is how I do it.
Okay, well that's going to take us a month of Sundays. Maybe we can do it quicker through using the pasture calculator in FarmX.
Yeah.
What we do here is just click on the pasture cover and then click on the ellipsis, and we've got some paddocks already preloaded. So what was that first one you hit there?
That'd be 1300.
Alright, next.
1450.
Next.
That'd be 1500.
Okay, so that's the average pasture cover and it's come out at 1810. So how does that compare with last year?
Oh, I'd have to go and get my old maps and find that out, to be honest, but it seems about right. It looks right, feels right in the paddock, so I think that'll get us through the winter, right? Now that we've done that, I might shoot through and get some of my actual jobs done.
Well, no, I think we need to do some more planning here. I mean, what do you think's more important than doing this?
Oh, I've got fences to do and gates to fix, and
I reckon this stuff's worth a couple of $100 an hour, and you can probably pay someone $20 to go and do that fencing. So I'd encourage you to stay here and work it through.
when you put it like that, righto.
Okay, Dan, well, we've got that 1810, that was our pasture cover. So that's this point here at the end of March. And then from that, we've got our forecast as what's going to happen with our pasture covers. So this green line is our average pasture cover throughout the year, and that goes forward for a full 12 months out to the end of February. That's based on those assumptions we put in around pasture growth and the different livestock classes that we've got on, including the sheep and the bulls.
Righto.
This blue one, that tells us how much grass we need to achieve the animal performance that we've got loaded in for that point in time. So the key thing is we don't want this blue line to get above the green line, and it goes red when that happens.
So that when that happens, you'd lose some weight on your cattle or your sheep or something.
That's right, yep.
Right.
So what it says is we physically can't get that level of performance given that level of pasture cover.
Righto.
So we'll have to correct it. So looking at this, it looks like there's some opportunity here. We'd expect our crunchiest time to be in early spring when we're lambing and we're just trying to feed our cattle. And so it looks like there's an opportunity there of a couple of 100 kilos of dry matter to look at carrying some more stock through the winter. So we need to go and have a look at how that might work. Okay, Dan, so that pasture cover graph was based on these growth rates that we got from the next door neighbour, and we've also allowed for a bit of nitrogen there in the autumn. Now we'll just move across. We've got up here 5 different tabs. The first one was our pasture. Our second one is our sheep, which is our ewes and their lambs and your hogget replacements. We've got your bull beef in there as well. There's a cropping tab, but we're not using that because we're all grass. And if we had supplements, we'd feed them under the supplement tab. So I think the opportunity here to me looks like we should carry some more bulls. What do you reckon?
Righto, if you can.
Hey, how long would it take you to get some more bulls on?
Oh, probably give us a couple of weeks if we had to go and buy them.
Okay, well we've got the number across here in each month, and we've also got the live weight of those bulls, and you can see their growth, them increasing in weight as they go. So if we click on April, and this is our transactions, we've got our opening number, and these are the sales we've got out next spring. So go for a new purchase. We'll change that date to say the 10th of April. And how many? Let's try 100 and see what happens. What weight do you reckon they'll be?
100 bulls, 380 kilos probably at the moment.
Well, you can see here it's gone red in the corner. That means that we've just overstocked it a little bit too much given the growth that we've got coming through in this one. So maybe we just need to back that off a little bit. So let's say we change that back to 60.
All right, I see. So now the cover will get through with the animals we've got on.
Yeah, and we'll still have a bit of a buffer there in spring if needed.
Only thing though, what if we have a bit of an autumn drought and the grass doesn't grow in April and May? And then I'll be right in the poo, won't I?
Okay, well let's go back and give it a try. So we'll go up here again and we'll turn our bull beef off and turn our pasture back on. And we've got 26 budgeted in for April. Do you think you've had enough rainfall to make that happen?
Yeah, well, maybe, or maybe not though. I think perhaps it might only do 20, say, for the month.
Alright, let's type that in. Well, you're right. That's tipped it over. You can see that we've gone red over here again, so we've gone infeasible. Our cover's too low in the spring.
Alright, so perhaps we better knock it back to 30 new bulls.
Alright, let's do that. turn our bulbs on again, into our transactions, and we'll change that to 30. There you go, that fits nicely. You happy with that?
That sounds pretty good. How much can we make out of them?
Probably a $3.50 margin.
It's $10,000 extra that we could make this winter.
Yeah, not a bad return.
That is good. I really need to get on the phone, don't I?
Alright, well let's go to it.
Good day.